Booze is what fuels this thing, okay?
Yeah.
Just putting that out there. Booze conceived it, and booze keeps it going.
Remember when not every talk show revolved around paternity tests? No? Then you probably didn't watch talk shows in the 80s and 90s. Some of my earliest talk show memories involve people like Oprah, Phil Donahue, Geraldo, and even RuPaul, long before RuPaul's Drag Race became a thing. I remember a high school social studies class where the teacher had us watch Geraldo's interview with Charles Manson, though I don't really remember the full context of that class. I remember watching punk and goth makeovers, and more than anything, I remember ambush shows. These were the shows where a guest would come on and have no idea why they were on or what was happening. Some topics included things like revealing the guest's girlfriend or boyfriend was transgender, but the guest didn't know it yet, or the guest's sister was sleeping with her husband, or someone brought the guest on a national television show to tell them they had a crush on them. This last one is what we're concerning ourselves with today. I don't remember watching much of the Jenny Jones show, but it doesn't matter. This is an episode that was taped and never actually aired.
I have to say that I watched more than my fair share of the Jenny Jones show. And oh my God, the makeover shows, just so many grateful kids who take their mom to the Jenny Jones show because, mom looks too butch, doesn't take care of herself. Well, no, duh. She had 2 little parasites that she spends all of her time on. She doesn't have time for herself anymore. But I don't know why those always bothered me, but they did.
But it lives on in infamy because of the murder that resulted from it, and also in the way that talk shows were forever changed from that point on. Jenny Jones herself was receiving letters saying that she had blood on her hands. It all started with an innocent crush. Bartender and army vet Scott Amedure, 32 years old, caught sight of Jonathan Smits working on a friend's car. His first sight of him was from the waist down. Jenny Jones tries hard to get an embarrassed Amedure to relate some steamy fantasies he's had of Smits, though he seems reluctant to do so. These involved tying him up in his backyard hammock and involved whipped cream and champagne.
Some things you just don't say on TV, and that just shouldn't have been said on TV.
Yeah.
No.
Meanwhile, John had been thinking hard about who it could be. An ex-girlfriend? He'd gone out and bought a nice suit, new shoes, new tie. He's convinced this is going to be an important moment for him. If it's his old girlfriend, he's going to marry her this time. He tells everyone at work about this. John had drawn a peace sign on the back of his car. Scott had commented on it. Scott told him he looked like a hippie. Scott told Donna that he thought John was a good-looking guy, and John was flattered. On March 6, 1995, Jones filmed 2 shows. One was entitled Revealing Same-Sex Secret Crush. In a tape later used as trial evidence, Jones asked the camera how we would choose to reveal a crush on someone. Would we write a letter? Tell them in private? Or would you tell that person that you're gay and hope he is too on national television?
Yeah, that's like a great idea. Great idea.
Well, Scott unfortunately chose the last option. He'd recently learned that Jenny Jones was looking for people hoping to reveal a same-sex secret crush, and since he had one, he contacted them, along with his friend Donna Riley. Jones states that Donna had been helping Scott pursue this secret crush on Smits. And that's just a note I have about
something that just makes me wonder, though, like in all of this, because I'm not faulting him. I know Scott Amedure did not anticipate for all of this to end the way it did. And, it ended tragically, and it's sad. But at any point, did he ever stop and be like, maybe I should just talk to this guy and ask him, maybe, are you gay? Just try to have that conversation in private. And yeah, I don't know.
Or have Donna do it if she's a mutual friend.
Yes, actually, yes. That's even the better idea, is have Donna ask. Like, I just don't, I don't understand. Like, even if it's like the desire, like I want to be on TV, which, okay, yeah, I get it. But it's just like, do you really want to do this to a person you don't know? And this should kind of be one of those examples of like, dealing with people that you don't know very well.
Yeah, I think his brother said somewhere that, like, he just wanted to do something big to impress him, but...
Yeah.
Mm,
I know what you're talking about. I saw that, it was like this grand gesture
yeah.
sort of thing. And I mean, I get that, but not all people, obviously, react the same way. So, unless that person is like, yay, that would be a fun thing for them to have happen while they're on TV. Just, I don't know. See, it's stuff like this too that makes me squirm. To me, it's no different than like sporting events where the guy proposes to the girl, and they put it on the Jumbotron and everything. And it's like there's this one moment of hesitation where you're like, oh my God, is she going to say no?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like, and what would you do, in that situation? Yeah, to you, that might be awesome. Like, I'm going to propose right here at this basketball game or whatever. But, you might want to make sure like they're totally into it too.
Yeah, that always weirds me out, those ones.
Yeah, it's just very much so. Unless you as a couple decide, beforehand that like this is how we're going to handle our proposal, which I wouldn't be surprised to find out that's how some couples do.
Mm-hmm.
Really nervous, kind of creepy. Yeah, everybody's watching me. Damn it.
Yeah.
I can't.
But so Smits was the only person of the three who was not really sure what was going to happen when he got on the show. The producers later claimed they'd told him someone would reveal they had a crush on him, and that it could be a man or a woman. He comes out and hugs Donna, then Scott goes in for a very awkward hug.
Yeah, that was awkward hug.
Later, his lawyers said that he was told it was going to be a woman. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done the show. So, first, Jenny asks if he thought Donna had a crush on him. He says no, but they're good friends. She then reveals it's really Scott. Smits smiles nervously and says,
"You lied to me."
Apparently, he'd already asked if Scott was the person the night before. When they replay some of the things Scott had said when he was backstage, he covers his face with both hands in embarrassment. They apparently all hung out after the show, according to Jones. He also said that Jonathan suggested a threesome, though Smits made it clear he was
definitely heterosexual.
Yeah, I want some elaboration on like how did Jenny Jones get that detail? You know what I mean? Like, yes, there are some things that were stated between both trials, between the Scott Amedure and the Jenny Jones, and I know I'm putting the cart before the horse right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like some of the it's like you can't just say that, without like, why are they having a threesome with Donna? Who is this threesome with? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I thought they suggested it was, Scott, John, and Donna, but they just said, they're just friends with her, and
yeah,
and
that's why.
Jonathan's
and Scott's
straight, and
right,
and Scott's gay. So
yeah, it just seems weird. It just seems like a weird, like, where'd you get that information from, Jenny Jones?
Like, I don't know what Donna is, but the other two, it's not working out for me in my head here.
Yeah, I mean, unless she's the bridge. But I have no idea. Yeah, just curious about where exactly that info came from, though.
Right. So 3 days later, however, Smits withdrew some money from the bank, bought a shotgun, took it to Amadure's mobile home, and asked Scott about the note he'd found. And the note said, "If you really want to get it off, I'm the only one who has the right tool." And apparently it wasn't signed.
Yeah, in the documentary, Trial by Media on Netflix, they actually show a picture of the note.
Okay.
And here it was attached to a blinking tool, like a blinking caution or like a caution light that you put on the road cones.
Okay.
So it was like put on something like that, which requires a specific tool to remove. So yeah, to kind of like give the note a little context there, it there was a setup, that how Scott had done it, so it would be identifiable to Jonathan who left the note.
Okay.
So
Scott just smiled. Smits then went back to the car to grab the shotgun, and he put the gun between the door and the door jamb. Scott backed into the kitchen, trying to get away. Jonathan shot him once, and Scott staggered and fell to his knees. Smits then shot him again. Then he left and called 911, stated,
I think I just shot a man.
now the other thing though that I wasn't aware of before doing this, like I watched some of the other stuff, that we had talked about earlier when we started working on this, and then it was partway through that I ended up seeing the Trial by Media episode. Apparently at some point, when Scott and John were having their confrontation at Scott's house, when Jonathan left and came back with the shotgun, Scott had apparently grabbed a chair too to try to like distance himself from him. And there was a friend of Scott's who was also in the trailer. So he actually witnessed all of this go down, and so now the one thing that I've never got any clarification on though, that I couldn't find. So Scott had his friend, I do believe the friend's name was Larry, who was at the trailer with him. And then John left, like got in his car, left, drove away for a little ways and went to a phone booth, which is where he called in 911. So I don't know. I mean, I would just hope that the person with Scott Amedure had also called 911 too, but I'm not sure how those events played out.
yeah.
In the time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, once again, I'd really hope that the
Yeah.
person there called 911 also. So, I think maybe, I mean, I'm guessing that had to have been the case, because I think cops were already on their way when John called, because I mean, I think they had like a pretty quick reaction time. So
Scott's brother later said Scott didn't have any intention of embarrassing John, he just thought it would be a spectacular way of trying to woo him. Scott's mother stated that John was told to make things look good for the audience. They suggested Scott give John flowers, but Scott didn't want to. John knows that Scott is gay, but it is not known at that point if John is gay. Clearly.
So, that's my other thing. I'm gonna, at any point, I mean, they obviously know each other, so it wasn't a secret. John knew Scott was gay. So I'm kind of inclined to say that if any point in time John was gay, he might have, in the process, revealed that information. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So then, Smits had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and Graves' disease.
Now, I'm not sure what Graves' disease is.
I was about to say the same. I'm not sure what. But anyway. His defense argued that he was pushed to commit murder due to his mental illness and the humiliation that he had suffered. This led to perhaps the most well-known instance of the gay panic defense. Smits was tried for first-degree murder, but was found guilty of second-degree murder instead, because the gay panic defense was considered a mitigating factor. Producers also claim that Smits may have killed Amedure because they did later have a sexual encounter, but the attorney Feiger denied this. He said that Smits was convinced that as soon as he left the show, the entire world was going to think he was gay. Smits had locked himself in closets, building altars to his girlfriends.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that made me wonder. Did he not? Was he not aware? Was John not aware that this didn't air right away? Like, this wasn't live. That this episode hadn't aired. I mean, it never aired. Because of this, it never aired. And so, yeah, like, it makes me wonder
Well,
if he
that
wasn't.
in TV shows, a lot of them, like, do a whole season and then air them,
Right.
And it's not.
Yeah. And that's what makes me wonder if he did not know that this was not. Nobody had seen this. So nobody, just the audience.
I figured it was just an idea of that, since it was taped, and that meant it was going to be on TV, so eventually. Even though it hadn't happened yet.
Right.
But I don't know.
But you could have just been like, no, that wasn't me. That guy looks a lot like me, I know. Sorry, not me.
Okay, in 1990...
Got a sticky mustache.
Okay. In 1990, Amadeur's family sued the Jenny Jones Show, Telepictures, and Warner Brothers because they believe the negligence on the part of the show resulted in Scott's death. The Amadeurs sought an award of $71.5 million and were awarded $29,332,686, and the jury found that the show was negligent and intentionally caused an unpredictable situation without concern for the consequences. They said that the producers should have known about Smits' mental illness before inviting him on the show. Smits' lawyers maintained that they suggested to him that the admirer was a woman. Jones' team insisted that they said it could have been either a man or a woman. Under oath, Jones admitted they didn't want him to know it was a man. The verdict was later overturned by the Michigan Court of Appeal. It is now studied in law school because of the legal significance, since it suggested the producers were to blame for the actions and the safety of the guests after the show. So.
Yeah. I don't know what I think. Like, there's a part of me that wants to say, yes, that these TV shows should screen people for mental illness, and everything like that. But then there's also a part of me that at this point in time, and I mean, we were alive then, so we were very much alive then. And I know, like I said, I watched more than my fair share of like daytime talk shows. You kind of know the nature of these shows though.
Yeah.
So like, if my first thought, if you were like, hey, let's go on the Jenny Jones Show, I'd be like, everybody hates my clothes. They're going to get me a makeover, or something like that. Like, you should have an idea. Now, I mean, clearly, yes, I think the overall reaction by Jonathan Smits was due to some type of due to a mental illness. I mean, this was like the overreaction of overreactions, which, and yeah, like, I just talk myself in a circle because I'm like, oh, you can't blame the shows. But now I'm like, yeah, it's totally the show's fault. It's true, though. Yes, that I talk myself into a circle.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't exist in a vacuum, and they should also know that homophobia is a thing, and some people react violently.
Yes, you're absolutely right on that. And I mean, there should be some screeners in there. Like, they needed to do something. I mean, well, clearly they don't have to worry about it anymore. They're not a show anymore. So,
well, yeah.
What I think Maury's the last one standing. Is Springer still even on?
I don't know.
I knew there was a Steve Wilkos show for a while there now, but they're not like they used to be.
Yeah,
I think Maury only does paternity tests for like the past decade.
Yeah, God, that gets boring to me.
Right?
I can't.
And especially when you keep in the same freaking girl on there. This is a problem.
The jury consisted of 5 women and 4 men who deliberated over 7 hours during a period of 2 days. They found the Jenny Jones Show and Warner Brothers to have been negligent in Amadeur's death. I already said some of this. 8 of 9 jurors had to approve the verdict. 1 had voted against it. Amedure family attorney Jeffrey Feiger told reporters that this had struck a blow for freedom because of the way talk show producers took advantage of their guests and used their emotions for entertainment and ratings.
Kind of like what Jeffrey Feger did later on with the trials on Court TV. I'm just saying.
Mm.
Just saying.
Which is pretty much what so much TV does anyway.
Yes. It's the presentation of it all.
Defense attorney James Feeney said that anyone in the business of interviewing ordinary people ought to be very concerned about the chilling effect this decision will have on them. These are issues that have much broader implications than just the Jenny Jones show. As a direct result, psych profiles started being a thing before a person was brought on a show, but the ambush shows pretty much stopped right away.
Yeah, the ambush shows, those are the worst.
Yeah.
You know, because those are the ones that have, like, you know, they do provoke a degree of reaction, you know, violent reactions. And
well, that's what makes them dramatic and what draws ratings.
Yes, that and, you know, the alcohol in the green room.
Oh, yeah.
How do we get this reaction? Well, throw vodka at it.
Well, we can get them drunk and try to make them talk about sexual fantasies about this man who's not gay. You know?
Yeah.
Warner Brothers senior vice president stated that they do not feel that the show was to blame, but rather that Jonathan Smits was to blame. Well, yes, he is too.
Yes. But I don't, you know, it's like there's literally a part of me that, you know, wonders, like, could he help it? Mm-hmm. You know,
but would
like,
this have happened without him being put on the show? You know,
exactly. Do I think this would have happened on its own? No. Mm-hmm. Do I think this would have happened this way in, like, a private conversation that had happened in, say, Scott's, you know, living room between the two of them? Mm-hmm. No. Do I think Jonathan might have been a little weirded out by it? Probably, but that's his own feelings. Do I think he would have murdered Scott over it? No. I don't.
Well, John said right on the 911 call, you know, he made a big deal of it having happened on national TV.
Yes.
Not a private conversation between, like, him and Scott or him and Scott and Donna. Or...
Right. So, I mean, that obviously was a big sticking point, you know, with him. The whole, you know, millions of people are seeing this. And you know, and of course, even if you go throw back to, you know, Jenny Jones's intro in that episode where, you know, like, how would you let someone know they had you know, you have a crush on them in front of millions of people? And so, yeah, I mean, she knew what she was doing. Obviously, this was not her first show, you know, so she built up on that. And I think, yeah, it just...
Mm-hmm. And then she's really trying hard to get these sex fantasies out of him, you know, like,
which
really
is just
hard.
Like, awkward, like, give up. You know, especially when, like, you know, even Scott Amedure himself was not very, like, you know, that whole statement was not very fluid to him either. He's kind of like, and
yeah, he was not very forthcoming with this.
Yeah.
Really
so it's like
pulling it out of him.
Just know when to stop. Just stop, Jenny. Stop.
So yeah, I mean, John wasn't even the only one embarrassed on there.
Yeah. It seemed awkward for, you know, everybody, you know. I think even, but I mean, there was a certain point, even though Jonathan was happy and smiling, you could still see, you know, in the clips, just the awkward, it was just the awkwardness of the whole thing. It seemed awkward.
Yeah.
You know, which, yeah, I mean, now, one of the things that Donna had stated is that after they had all gone to a bar together, so they all did hang out together. Donna stated that at Scott's trial, or, you know, Scott's murder trial.
Yeah.
So, you know, afterward, they did all go hang out together, and they were drinking and apparently having a good time, and everything ended on a positive note. And, you know, and then they all went home, and then, yeah, that happened. So.
Yeah, and then, you know, probably Jonathan was at home, like, stewing over this, you know?
Right.
and thinking, oh my
Right.
god, they're all gonna laugh at me,
Yeah. His inner Mrs. White.
Yes.
We all have an inner Mrs. White sometimes. Sometimes she's not as loud as she should be at certain times, but we all have. Yeah.
But yeah, that and the gay
Inner
panic,
Mrs.
which
White.
which it was premeditated. If he thought, well, I need money to go get a shotgun? Anyway.
Yes. Yes. It was a shotgun.
Yeah, well, I don't have the cash on me to go get a gun, so I'm have to go to the ATM.
Which, I mean, right there's premeditation.
Yeah.
Like, it's, once again, it's not like I'm going to this cabinet, I'm doing this. Like, no, I'm doing this. So, and that's the one thing he really does have working against him is
and
that.
then he goes to the door, and then he goes back to his car, and he could have stopped then too,
Yes. Yes.
I mean, there's 100 times he could have not done this.
Right. Right. Yes. It could have even started with, don't talk to him anymore. Like
just shun him.
Yes.
It's okay. There will be some hurt feelings for a while, and then it'll go away.
Right.
For God's sake.
Yes. I mean, and, once again, like, not trying to victim shame or anything, I mean, this obviously, like, it ended once again in tragedy, but I think it was kind of, I do think it was tragic for all parties involved, I do. And, once again, like, the show just did not help at all, obviously.
Well, I think Scott was probably just naive.
Yeah.
He's not.
But this was also a guy who was in the army.
Yeah.
During Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Well,
so.
Yeah.
I mean, it almost seems like he should have been able to. Discretion.
Like Donna, if Donna was a real friend, she should have figured out.
Yeah, that too. I just, I
mean, if you have two male friends and one likes the other friend, wouldn't you kind of want to say, but is the other one gay?
Yes.
Wouldn't you ask yourself that if you had two male friends?
Or, if my one male friend would be like, oh, hey, I would be like, yeah, they're not gay. I mean, you would kind of think, unless, like, I mean, maybe it wasn't an issue to Donna, maybe the once again, like the sexuality, everybody's sexuality didn't matter to her because she's just friends with people, so there's no, intentions of anything being anything more than past platonic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, unless it was that sort of like, didn't think about it. But you would think the moment that one friend mentions that they have a crush on another, that you would be like, oh, hey, yeah.
But does he even like dudes?
Yeah. So it yeah, it does. It just seems like a weird, thanks for not being a friend moment. I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for watching. And if you enjoy videos like this, go ahead and remember to like us on Facebook and also subscribe on YouTube. Or if you want to, you can go to our website. We have all of our information there. And also email us. If you have a topic idea that you'd like to see, go ahead, email us. Or, just email us one of your creepy and weird stories or photos. You have an experience you want to share? Go ahead and share it with us, and then we will read it on the air.